The mic is muted. There we go. Hi, everyone. I've got to do the whole intro again now. This is hilarious. I'm Chris, joined with Dale, and we are fresh out of the midnight screening for The Batman, which is, of course, Matt Reeves' new take on The Batman. This was actually scheduled to come out last year, but thanks to COVID, this was delayed. Last year, it was my most anticipated film. This year, it's now my most anticipated film of the year. We've seen it, and we can now talk about it. We are going to keep it spoiler-free for the first chunk of the review, so we're not going to give anything major away at all, but when we do, we'll let you guys know. This is absolutely a film that you should check out. I will say that, so if you don't want to know anything, not even spoiler-free, the film is out now as of Friday, and you can go check it out. Before we jump into this thing, though, I'm going to hand over to you then, Dale, because we can talk Batman. We've been talking Batman pretty much all week leading up to this thing. What have been how hyped, how anticipated were you for this film? Were you looking forward to it? Were you more curious about it, or
out of 10?
Out of 10,
about 15.
Yeah.
It was very. I was looking forward to it, but I was also very like, I wonder how it'll go, because every Batman movie's different. It's very like Christopher Nolan ones were very, this is real life with Batman, and this was very like, we know it's going to be comic book wise, and it was like, well, how's it going to go? But very excited. Do you know what I mean? Very, very, like, as I say, 15 out of 10. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Same here as well. I mean, as I said, like, this was my most anticipated movie of the year. I'm always going to have that with a new Batman film. It's always the way. But this was like one of those rare occasions where everything was just kind of going right for this movie in the lead up to it. From the earliest trailers that came out to the earliest rumors about characters and villains that were going to be in there, and actually hearing Matt Reeves talk about it. I think it was on the DC Fandom video. I think that was when we got the first trailer for it.
I think one of the reasons I was so hyped was because I stayed away from trailers. I didn't watch anything. I was just like, because I heard a couple of things like, Penguin and the Riddler, and a couple of things. I went, well, I don't want to look. I saw one teaser trailer, and that was it. And I went, it looks good. Right now, I'm going in blind. Do you know what I mean? That was enough, because that's why I was so hyped for it. Because I went, I don't want to know. I want to be like, when you're a kid and you go see a movie, you have no idea what to expect. I wanted that. That's what I wanted.
I mean, we were complete polar opposites on that fact. I mean, I was surprised that I think you'd seen one trailer, right?
Yeah.
Like the first trailer that ever came out. You haven't seen any of the follow-up trailers. You didn't even know like what the Riddler looked like or anything like that. I was completely the opposite. I wanted to be like you, just go in as fresh as a daisy as possible. But temptation was there. I watched every trailer, every international trailer, every TV spot, everything that I could with this movie, cast interviews, you name it. I watched it all, even the soundtrack, the Michael Giacchino score, which we'll talk later about. I was listening to more or less every single track from that before the film had even come out. I just couldn't get enough of this stuff. But hearing Matt Reeves talk about it, and the visible passion that he has for Batman as a character, and some directors come on board and you think, well, clearly, they have a vision for the character inherently, otherwise they wouldn't waste years of their life making a film about Batman. But you could argue that some get it more than others, and I mean, get it in the loosest possible terms, because
that said the Riddler and the Joker were the same. Because that is not getting it.
I think that might have been Nolan. I think when The Dark Knight Rises was rumored, everyone was saying, "Oh, it's going to be Riddler." Leonardo DiCaprio is the Riddler, Johnny Depp is the Riddler. People throwing names out there, and I think that Nolan said that he didn't want to do the Joker because fundamentally he didn't want to do the Riddler because the Riddler and the Joker are fundamentally very similar villains. And
if you watch the 60s series,
yeah, exactly. If you got something like that, Cesar Romero, Frank Gorshin, just laughing and giggling and cracking jokes and stuff. Even in some respects, I would argue Jim Carrey's Riddler as well Jack Nicholson's Joker. Again, very similar.
With those, I always wondered what it'd be like if Jim Carrey played. Obviously, it would be it wouldn't be like 89. It'd be a very different Joker. It'd be more comical. But I just wanted to see how it goes, like in an alternate reality.
He plays the Joker.
Yeah,
I think he could do it. I think he could do it now.
I think he could do it, but I reckon it'd be more family friendly.
Yeah,
I reckon it would be. But then again, you never know. Jim Carrey can do many things.
Mm-hmm. And he's very animated, isn't he? But yeah, I forgot what I was saying that, but yeah, hearing Matt Reeves talk about Batman at the DC fandom, you hear some directors talk sometimes. It's like, they're full of shit. They're just talking for the cameras, but I didn't get that with him. He genuine passion, like he knew almost like every iteration of Batman. And it was, in many ways, this might sound like a kind of a selfish thing to say, just seeing all the stuff that was coming out for this film, it felt like this was a Batman film made for me. Like all my favorite aspects of Batman, my favorite incarnation of Batman, just in general, is the animated series and by extension the Arkham games in some respects. Arkham Knight, but the grand majority,
Wait,
that kind of
that was
style.
a game? I thought it stopped the sea.
we just blacklist it. But in terms of the way he was talking about Gotham, how Gotham is a character, and he was saying, Nolan did that for Batman Begins, and it was very gritty. But then by the time you hit Dark Knight, it just basically becomes Chicago. And I think they filmed some stuff in Philadelphia as well for Dark Knight Rises, and he says that Gotham didn't feel like a character; it was just a city, and he wanted to bring more of that gothic quality to it and make it this heightened, almost make it like a character as you would any of like the main actors in there. So I was like, yes, he gets it.
It reminded me of the Arkham games in a way of when I played them. I grew up watching the animated series and I played them, and it was like being, watching the animated series again. It was like that, but this time I'm 20, whatever I was when I first played it. And it was kind of like that. Now I'm, 27, 26, 22. And then, now I'm in my 20s. I was watching that movie thinking it's like being a kid again. But obviously this is more adult. Like, do you know what I mean? It was like that. It was literally probably the most, I was going to say the most, closest we've got to the animated series, I would say.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. Just sort of as like a jumping off point into the film. And it doesn't pull its punches when it comes to sort of its target audience. I mean, this is a 15 rated film. So I know you could say that, I think, wasn't Batman versus Superman? I think that was a 12A, wasn't it, when that came out? But it was a 15, I think, on the extended edition. I'm pretty sure.
Well, I don't know. That the DCEU had so many cuts and changes. Suicide Squad was a 12, then a 15, then a 12, and then so
yeah, I'm pretty sure when it came out in the cinemas, though, it was a 12A for sure. I mean, this one's 15. It's almost like following in the same vein of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker film, which itself was a 15, and the runtime for this, 3 hours. I think this is fundamentally from the certificate, I think it's definitely geared more towards an adult audience. I will say that I don't think this is going to hold the attention of, say, your Marvel superhero crowd, not even to make it like Marvel versus DC type thing, but even things like Shazam for DC that are a bit more easygoing and you can like jump into it as a blockbuster film. This
was
a
slow burn.
It's a very slow burn. This doesn't feel like a blockbuster film. And I'd kind of make an argument for that as well with The Dark Knight, in that I don't know if kids would love Dark Knight as because it's very sort of like heavy going and mature, with a lot of mature and adult themes that are going on in there. I think
The Dark Knight was very... How old was I when I watched it? 12? Whatever.
It was 08 when it came out.
Yeah, so it must have been like, 12, whatever I was. But anyway, 11, 12 years old. It was that kind of... I was the right age for, where it's the kind of the first darker movie you see and you go, this is cool. I'm 12. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, when you first see a 12, I'm 12, I can see this, people shoot people, it's cool. That it had that vibe, whereas this is more of a like you say, your attention span wouldn't last. Mm-hmm. It's a very, very slow burn.
But I was prepped for that going in. I was like, right, 3 hours. I mean, it was daunting, midnight screening for this thing, going, we're going to get out of this thing at 3:30 in the morning. I guess opening then, if we start with, without giving anything away, spoilers, biggest positive from the film and biggest negative. If I jump off first with this, my biggest positive is just the tone and the visual style of Gotham and this world. I think they absolutely nailed it. There is one character that I do have a slight aesthetic problem with, which I think we're both on the same page there, which we'll get into in a minute. But the look of Gotham, fantastic. It's more or less every single scene is nighttime or it's sunset. There's it's never daytime in Gotham at any point in this film. It feels gritty. It's rainy. It's damp. It feels disgusting. And it does feel like a city that just has no hope of getting better. It does feel, you almost get the sense of, and they bring this up in the film, what is Batman fighting for? Like, is he just fighting a losing battle here to try and get this back up and running. So I think that's probably my biggest positive. I'd actually throw it. We'll talk more about him in a second, but Robert Pattinson's Batman, the Bruce Wayne thing we'll discuss, but certainly this depiction of Batman is probably, to me, the most accurate to something akin to like Kevin Conroy's Batman, or like comic book Batman. To me, it's heightened just enough. It retains the grittiness that you would have got with like a Christian Bale Batman, with the kind of low whispering intensity of a Michael Keaton Batman, but it's heightened and comic booky and tough and hard edged, almost like Ben Affleck's Batman. So it almost feels like an amalgamation of pretty much more or less all the best Batman in it. But watching him, it felt like I was watching a Batman from the Arkham games, which is what I've wanted, and that's what I got. My biggest negative, I don't know if I have like a glaring negative. I think one I'll just chuck in there is that I wasn't overly keen on the Riddler's appearance. But the character's there. I think that's the most important thing. Like I do usually like the aesthetic to match the comic book as much as possible. I don't think a Riddler in like a full green tuxedo with question marks covered all over it and a question mark cane and a bowler hat would have really worked for this film. But I think you could have maybe tweaked it slightly to just making it like more prominently green and not as muted and not as like so much like a gimp mask, I guess. But I get it. At a crime scene, he doesn't want any DNA or any evidence to
get close. I think the thing about that, it kind of shows his OCD.
Yeah,
a little bit. That's what I took from it. I don't know if that was intentional, or I don't know whether the OCD bit was the intentional purpose of the mask. I reckon it was more just because, the Zodiac Killer and stuff, it was more towards that. But it showed that for me. I looked and I went, well, that kind of seems like what the Riddler would do. Like, do you know what I mean? Because he's got OCD. It's like, well, I can't leave any strands of hair. I can't do this. And it seems like that kind of thing. But yeah, I was a bit like, I was watching it thinking, he looked like just, the kind of guy you'd get in like some weird snuff video where he's like, I'm going to kill this guy and you have no idea who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a little bit like, it was dark. It was great. I loved it. But at the same time, it was like, it could have been anyone.
Yeah.
We needed more significance that it was the Riddler. So I feel like the biggest kind of negative for me was it wasn't a negative because I love Batman and I know Batman really well. But if you don't know Batman, you're there who like, well, who's this? Do you know what I mean? It's very only because they say this is the Riddler, it's the Riddler. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it is literally who's this. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of, like as I say, it jumps in, and I'm completely fine with this. I know you had a bit of a different view, but it's starting with Batman a year in, and it's kind of, and I was fine with it. I was like, I don't need to see this. I don't see Batman's origins all the time. I know this, but you obviously said it's always someone's first Batman film. So I get what you're saying, but for me, I was like, yeah, but I know Batman. I like being thrown in. But I feel like it wouldn't appeal to so many people without knowing Batman. It'd be kind of like, okay, well, you need to have a little bit of background before you watch the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? I think that was the biggest negative for me as one single story. It's like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And what would you say is your biggest positive from it?
The casting, 100%.
Yeah.
Everyone played their role spectacularly. Like it was literally like it was meant. Like everyone, like especially Catwoman. Like
Zoe Kravitz
well.
Was really,
I mean, I don't know if it helped that she was really hot. Like I don't know if that's what helped it, but just
she looked good in the outfit. She looked amazing in the outfit.
She was really, really well. The chemistry between them, the kind of undercut, like the way they worked together, it was just that was really, really good.
Yeah.
It made it go so. Like there was scenes I was watching, and it was a good hour or so, and I was like, it's been an hour. I was like, that literally felt like a 10-minute. Like they did really well. The pacing of those scenes were the best. Do you know what? Coming towards my like, there was the only criticism. Like another one, I'll say the only one. Another one I would have is occasional pacing, a little bit slow, which it's not a big criticism because it worked with the vibe of the movie.
Yeah.
But when I compared to how great the pacing was in some scenes, and then some it slowed down, I kept thinking it was quite up and down with how it paced, and yeah.
There were some moments of kind of awkward editing in this where I don't know if there was much left on the cutting room floor because I mean it is already a 3-hour movie, but transitions between scenes, it was quite abrupt. There's I don't know if to give it away, it's not really a spoiler, you see it in the trailer if you've seen it. There's a bit where Batman jumps off in a wingsuit and kind of escapes during a scene, and he like touches down on the ground and he's a little bit beat up, and then it just cuts and it's like, oh, suddenly we're like halfway into another scene, and it felt like there was something missing there maybe.
I honestly thought I blacked out. I was really confused.
So there were some awkward moments like that. I will say with a 3-hour runtime, I was kind of worried at first because this film's juggling a lot. You know, it's having to set up a new Batman, set up a new world of Gotham and everything with all these characters. New Catwoman, we've got to establish chemistry between those two. You know, we've got the Riddler, but in the mix we've also got Carmine Falcone, we've got Penguin, you know, Alfred, and there's so many different unique character interactions and relationships that you need to build within one film. So I am actually glad, and I guess this is a positive as well, that Warner Brothers, it looks like, just let Matt Reeves make the movie he wanted to make. Maybe there were some studio notes there like, you need an action scene in that part, or, you know, end with like this big bombastic action scene or something like that. Maybe, but from what I can see, seeing as a viewer, it looks like this was just an idea that Matt Reeves had. You know, he worked with a screenwriter. They penned this 3-hour draft of this really good, tightly written Batman story and just went and made it. And it's so refreshing. And you see the results of it. You know, Joker looks like a guy had an idea for a Joker origin movie that he wanted to tell, made it, wins all the Oscars. And, you know, we love Joker. I think I don't know if we reviewed Joker, but we certainly talked about it. And this film, you get that as well. And then you get other films like, you know, Justice League. It feels like, well, the first cut of Justice League, at least, where it's, you know, studio trying to meddle and tweak it and be quite reactionary to things that have come out.
There was only one cut. The other one wasn't a thing.
Oh no, I did a 5-hour live stream on that goddamn film.
I like that movie.
I don't want to piss off the DC fanboys too much, but no. So I really appreciate that Warner Brothers were like, yeah, 3-hour movie, just like go and make it. You know, don't take a 3-hour movie and cut it down to like 2 hours, which is what they did with the original cut of Justice League. Well, that was 4 hours originally, wasn't it? But let's jump into this then, because I think the biggest talking point that we need to talk about with any Batman film, with any new Batman film and new incarnation, is the man himself. So Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne Batman. And like the character of Batman, I feel like we need to address this from 2 points. We need to review the Bruce Wayne alter ego, and we need to review the Batman alter ego. I'll start with Batman. It's difficult to say because I've only watched this film once, and I don't want to be reactionary because, you know, I've had years and years and years of, you know, all the other Batman since pretty much when I was 6 years old and watched Batman 89 for the first time. I'm still going to say it now because it's going to be nostalgia talking, and it absolutely is. Michael Keaton is still my favorite Batman, and I think that's always going to be the case because that was the first Batman that I ever saw. But if I'm going to set nostalgia aside and everything, this is probably my favorite, I would say. As a Batman, I think Ben Affleck is probably the best. The outfit, when I first saw it in some set photos and everything, I wasn't really keen on. The cowl looked a bit bulbous at the front, like a bit sort of like chrome domey kind of thing. But the suit looked fantastic on the screen. You know, in the rain, in the night of Gotham and everything. He looked imposing and he looked terrifying. And I love that the film did bring up that fear factor that is in the criminals. You know, they're always like looking in the shadows over their shoulder to check if the Batman's going to emerge from the shadows, completely paranoid. Love that fact, and they brought that fear factor to Batman. And just the fact that we got to see that detective side of Batman, which is an integral part of his character, which hasn't really been explored all that much in the films that we've had before. You know, you get elements of it in the Nolan films, but they don't really go that far with it. This is a noir crime film, and you know, you've got Batman working with Gordon at crime scenes, you know, dusting for prints and everything and working alongside Gordon. I loved all that stuff, and the gadgets in there, and the combat's fantastic as well. This feel like a Batman that can really hold his own in combat, which again, I'm not dogging on the Nolan films. They're fantastic. Well, the first two are fantastic films. But even in those ones, I always felt like the hand-to-hand fighting was always really clunky with Christian Bale, and he didn't look like he could hold his own in a fight. He looked a little bit awkward. This, as I said, was like Arkham Batman. This was like almost like I could pick up a controller and I was doing that free-flow combat. If you want to give your opinions on Batman, then we'll jump in, because I think we're both the same on Bruce Wayne, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, yes. But I have a few. But anyway, I'll talk about one.
It's complicated. Yeah, it's complicated.
But with Batman, like I said, I think it's a close second to Michael Keaton, but not just a nostalgia thing. I think it's because of the Bruce Wayne comparison. Whereas this one obviously is very, very different. We'll talk about Bruce Wayne in a second, as I say. But that's why it's a close second. but I think he did really, really well. The thing is as well, like, you know, I mean, listen to like a new album, I think that's my favorite. I don't think it's that talking. I think it literally is. I think it's because it's the closest to Kevin Conroy.
Yeah.
You know, it's the closest to that, and it's, you know, really sort of. I feel at times he felt kind of lost as well, which is kind of good because, you know, we're used to seeing Batman as he knows exactly what he's doing, which is great, and that's what we want from Batman. But, you know, and he was like that, but there was occasions that you just saw like he's just a human, and he was just like, what do I do? Do you know what I mean? We kind of, I think Robert Pattinson showed those elements of just, well, he is just a human, because that's something that makes Batman stand out between him and Superman. Superman's not a human. Batman's a human. Do you know what I mean? And whereas like Man of Steel, you got like we saw Superman where he was a little bit unsure, whereas we never really see that about Batman. And I like that we kind of got that, because it's like, well, it shows that he's human. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Which was one of my favorite bits, as I say, him portraying Batman. It was Bruce Wayne that was a bit different.
Yeah. I guess we can get into Bruce Wayne now then. I will say, sort of like across the board, this is the most tortured and haunted Bruce Wayne Batman that we've had on screen so far, I would say. Certainly Bruce Wayne. And this was one of the negatives that I was seeing from some people. Some people just loved it, you know, completely, which I can totally get. Other people had their reservations about his depiction of Bruce Wayne, because ultimately when you are playing the character of Batman, you do, as a performance, have to play both sides. And I've always loved that aspect about the character. And it's kind of very similar to the whole Clark Kent Superman thing, how, you know, he is Superman, but when he goes into that office at the Daily Planet, he has to put on that persona, you know, that sort of like bumbling Clark Kent. And it's kind of the same with Batman as well. You know, Bruce Wayne has to put on that, you know, larger than life, outgoing business billionaire playboy kind of persona. You don't really get that in this one. You know, one of my criticisms of Dark Knight Rises is Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character of John Blake. Is it John Robin Blake? But there's a scene in that film, I think it's actually probably one of John Blake's first films, where he just sits down in Wayne Manor and he said, I always knew that you were Batman because you looked at me one day and you were really sad. And I've experienced that sadness, so I know that you're Batman. And I always thought that was terrible and really lazy writing. But I'm sorry, if you were trying to like narrow it down of, who could the Batman be in this city? You take one look at Bruce Wayne in this the entire way through, and it's like, he doesn't play it any differently. Like, he's, you know, it's the longer hair. It's, you know, people are calling him like the emo Bruce Wayne, and it absolutely is. Like, there's scenes in the film where he's given like this inner monologue, and it's very monotone, and it's, you know, in the background you've got Underneath the Bridge, you got Nirvana playing as well, and it's raining, and it's really,
the thing is, it's very, like you say, it's very, I don't know if shallow is the right word, but you know what I mean? It's very literally one-dimensional.
Surface level.
It's Batman, that's it. So when he's Bruce Wayne, he takes off the suit, it's like, okay, it's Batman, but he ain't got the mask on. That is literally it. The thing that I will compliment, though, was, the way I saw it was like he was like a drug addict.
Yes, yeah.
It was literally like Batman was, do you know what I mean? He doesn't have to deal with it. Do you know what I mean? Not just like it's a drug for him, but you know when like if someone's a heroin addict, they don't know how to deal with it. It's that, and I felt like that's what it was, which I think he brought to the character really, really well. So I think if, let's say, the next one, if he's exactly the same, I will be just very like, look, it's just one dimensional. He's not playing Bruce Wayne well. If in the next one he changes it up a little bit, he does whatever. It kind of, I think what this one will show is his kind of, I know it's a year in, but his beginning, he's dealing with it, and I think he shows that well. So I think his Bruce Wayne, though I'm optimistic of the next one, will kind of finalize my opinion on him as Bruce. Do you know what I mean? I think that, because
this is meant to be a trilogy. I mean, I don't know if the other two have been greenlit already. I mean, this does sequel bait quite hard, and we'll talk about that in the spoiler section. But I think, judging where this ends, you know, Batman has a quite a compelling character arc, I would say, throughout this thing. It does look like the character is going to advance, and we are going to see very different aspects, and we are going to see the character of Batman grow, which is ultimately what you want to see in a trilogy of Batman films. You don't want him to just kind of stay the same. I'm glad you mentioned the thing there about that Bruce Wayne's almost like a drug addict. You know, he's just ticking over till the next night time where he can get his fix to be Batman again. Every time you see it, he looks so strung out. You know, he looks visibly like he hasn't slept in so long. He's pale, he's weathered, he's kind of disheveled. So this isn't like the handsome billionaire. You know, you're not going to imagine him walking into like a high society party with two hot babes on either arm, like you would with a Christian Bale or Val Kilmer or George Clooney or something like that.
He was never Batman.
He had his place in Batman history. So, and this is the double-edged sword for me, because I do like that take on Batman, and you get these really genuinely emotional moments where he's talking to Alfred, and Alfred's just, there's nothing behind the eyes with Bruce. I think he even says in the film something like, "I'm not afraid to die." Like, I've just, you know, he is almost like borderline suicidal, and he's like found peace with that.
Though I did like
no,
that.
It's a cool aspect.
It showed how strong he was, because it still showed he was strong. Like, it didn't. It never portrayed him as weak. It always portrayed him as strong. So even though he looked weak, he knew what he was doing. Like, do you get what I mean? Like, even though I said that he didn't, do you know? Yeah, I know what I'm saying.
But do you think the film could have struck a bit more of a balance? Do you think we could have got a little bit more, not necessarily humor, but, you know, Christian Bale still had all those emotions with Batman and had those sad moments of, you know, real emotion. But he did also get some quippy lines in there, and he was that Bruce Wayne.
He had some scenes,
guy, wasn't he?
Mainly as Batman, where he would do stuff that was just like such a strong actor and stuff. But like, when you see him play, you know, just play Bruce Wayne. Let's say he didn't play Batman; he just played Bruce Wayne. I think he was a very stale kind of like, why are we employing this guy? Like, that's how I think, because he looks like just a shallow, this guy can't act. That's how he came across. And I know that sounds really bad, considering I've actually said that he's quite good, but I think it's Batman that saved him. If it was just Bruce Wayne, it's very one-dimensional, like I say.
But again, like, another thing that we need to address, this is why it's so complicated, because it's
hard to say without spoilers.
Yeah, no, it is. But I mean, this, as you mentioned, this is Batman 2 years into his career, and he says that at the very beginning of the film. He's 2 years in. This is still that very vengeful Batman, you know, where he's filled with anger and loathing, and he's trying to find a way to divert that aggression through the Batman character, but he hasn't found that restraint or that principle just yet of everything that we know from the Batman superhero kind of persona. He's still kind of a fledgling at this point. He's very capable, you know, in combat and everything like that, and he's got more or less a mastery of his gadgets, but it still does look like a very, well, I think fundamentally, I think it's based on Year One, like the graphic novel. It's early days Batman. So that can be frustrating from a film standpoint, because we are watching this film in isolation. And I think a lot of the other Batman films that have come out, they don't really have a massive cliffhanger. I know like Batman Begins has a little bit of one with like the Joker card and everything, but you can watch Batman Begins as a standalone film. And a lot of the Batman films that have come before, you can watch as standalone adventures. So to not get a complete package Bruce Wayne / Batman in the first movie is a bit frustrating. But if they are pacing this out over a trilogy, and it's going to have that structure of an Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, it will be less frustrating. But it's frustrating in the sense that we need to wait.
See, the thing is,
6, maybe 8 years before we get that complete story.
I said even if we didn't, I'd be okay with it. It's a nice little movie. Like,
yeah,
because it's a noir, because it's literally that. It's a thriller. Even had horror elements like that. It just works as a movie. I think even if that was the only thing, it works. People should still watch it. It's not like, oh, it's incomplete. Whereas, like, you know, the Justice League 4.5 hour movie, that's literally incomplete. You can't watch that and then not want more, really. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Whereas this, you can watch it, and if that's the end, okay, well, that was cool.
Yeah,
good.
So Justice League, well, the Snyder cut ends with I was going to say Apocalypse. No, not that scene. That scene's terrible. That should have been cut. But no, Darkseid, where it's you know, we'll like assemble the legions, and it's like, oh, I want to see Darkseid, and we're probably never going to see Darkseid now in a part 2. Let's kind of stick with the Batman character then right now, because you mentioned that one of your favorite things was the chemistry with Selena Kyle. So let's talk Selena Kyle then. So Zoe Kravitz is playing our new Catwoman in this. Everything from the trailers, I was really intrigued, and especially when Michael Giacchino's soundtrack came out for Catwoman's theme, and it was this. It almost, you got that sense of like a femme fatale from the music, or at least I did. It sounded something that could accompany like a Bond girl, like something John Barry
Jessica Rabbit
or Jessica Rabbit, something like that. And you had like piano jazz in there. It's that very timeless quality that we see a lot in, you know, some depictions of Batman. Even in the animated series, it looks like very 30s New York kind of fashion and style. But then there's modern elements to it as well. And I always love that we're kind of looking at this very timeless place that is Gotham.
You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb and might say she's actually my favorite Catwoman.
Wow, really?
Mm-hmm. because
so Michelle Pfeiffer has been unseated
right, and I
from the top
will
spot.
quickly say why Michelle Pfeiffer's not. As much as I liked her, as much as she was cool, because Tim Burton is so out there and so weird, and I'm not dissing him, I'm saying he's great. It was Batman 89, Batman Returns, fantastic films, but I felt in comparison it was a very forced, weird. Do you know what I mean? And this was actually great. Like, do you know what I mean? I feel like she was probably my favorite thing I would say about, like, do you know what I mean? If I was going to pick one specific, who would I watch? Not just because she's hot, but literally because, like, yeah, just she was really, really good and probably my favorite in the movie.
I think, you know, I'm going to kind of do the same thing that I did with Batman on this. I definitely think that Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman / Selena Kyle is probably the most comic accurate Catwoman that we've had in the film so far. Anne Hathaway wasn't bad, I didn't think. But no, I think she was the best bit of that film. But I think at the end when she's riding around on the Batpod and
best bit of that film,
she
you take the worst with the, like, do you know what I mean? That's like saying it's the best of a bad bunch.
So I didn't mind her. I honestly didn't mind her as Catwoman. She wasn't like astounding to me or anything like that. But I think, you know, in that film she was genuinely good. She seemed a little bit too campy almost though for that film. You know, in a film that's very dark and gritty and realistic, suddenly this more sort of like comic book and sort of quirky and charismatic character comes along. I don't know, but I think Pfeiffer's always going to be my favorite. Just the look is so defining to me. That the Danny Elfman score, the creepy imagery with that in there. But yeah, if you look at aspects, you know, she's the lowly secretary, isn't she, to Christopher Walken, and then she gets pushed out a window. Yeah. Bitten by cats, and then she comes out, she's like this completely off her nut psycho whack job kind of thing, and she's great, and she plays it great, and she looks great. This one is definitely more accurate to like the Arkham games and the comic books in terms, well, in my opinion anyway. And you're right, she does have amazing chemistry with Robert Pattinson, and as the film develops, I'm not going to give anything away, but these are two very tortured people, very disturbed people, and you get that aspect from both the characters, especially Robert Pattinson's Batman. Just from a glance, like looking at him, it's just like this is a disturbing Batman.
I like
this is, you know, when they keep saying like, "I'm crazy, look at you, you're dressed as a bat," kind of thing. I really did get that impression with him in this.
They were as well, because they're both damaged, but they dealt with it so differently.
They complement each other so well.
Yeah. It was really, really good to see them together.
And they still bring in that kind of will they, won't they dynamic between the two of them. You know, so perfect for each other, absolutely made for each other, but they can never find a way to make it work. They still do bring in aspects of that as well, and that ultimately they're so very similar, but that moral compass is just shifted ever so slightly, you know, to the lengths that Catwoman is prepared to go to. So I really did like that aspect about her as well. They never go full costume. She's in the cat suit, she's in like the leather cat suit, but the cowl itself, it's kind of just like a balaclava, isn't it? With like the ears cut out. It's like very minimal.
From what I remember, it's that you could see a lot of her face.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
It's very minimal, but maybe that's something that, you know, they can develop as the films go on. Maybe they'll change the costumes. I think they probably will. I think we'll see some updates to the bat suit as well come the next movie. On a really weird tangent, going back to Batman, the high collar on the cape really did grow on me. I really did enjoy that after a while.
I never had an issue with it though.
Yeah.
Never, even from the beginning. I always liked the suit. I thought it was quite basic in a way. Do you know what I mean? I like that. I thought, because when you think about the very original first ever Batman we got, it was very basic. It was very, and I think it showed that, and it had, but you know, the slight element of the Christian Bale Batman had a slight element of that, but with the original look. Like, I think it was very basic, very good. I always thought that was the best.
You mentioned basic as well, and not to say that this, you know, film is basic anyway. I do actually just want to check the budget of this film because I'm quite curious. Okay, it was done on a budget of 200 mil, so that is pretty high as films go. But it feels quite low key, and I like that about it. The ending isn't. It does become more of your sort of like archetypal third act ending, I would say, to a superhero film. But even then, it doesn't go like above and beyond or anything like that. It still feels very self-contained. I'd say there's probably only a handful of action scenes in this film as well, and they're fantastic and they're great, but they feel quite minimal. The whole film felt quite minimal to me, but I really appreciate that, and I think that worked with the, you know, the slow burn noir tone as we talked about.
It made me feel clever as well. the little bits of just figuring out what this bit meant, and I went, I got it right. Like
Yeah.
it was cool. Like there was that, and I think that's what made it. It was the noir thing, because I think a lot of this is one thing Batman movies miss. They miss the noir, they miss the detectiveness, they miss all that, and they'll have an element for like 5 minutes. You go, okay, and then suddenly action. Whereas this didn't do that. There was a lot of that going, oh, fantastic, a little bit of action, cool, and it captured it so well.
No, I totally agree. So we've covered Batman, we've covered Batman, Catwoman. Let's talk about the main villain of this thing then. So Paul Dano playing the Riddler. Edward Nashton, which I was like, his name's Edward Nigma, isn't it? But I've done some digging.
I'm not okay with that.
And apparently in the comic books he has also been called Edward Nashton, so I can't be too cut up about that. Okay. So I've only actually seen him in one film prior to this. I'm pretty sure I've only seen him in one film. Yeah, There Will Be Blood, which he was fantastic in. He was absolutely brilliant. I've heard that he's in the film Prisoners, the Denis Villeneuve film, but I haven't watched that yet, although I've heard he's bloody fantastic in it again. And knowing him from There Will Be Blood and the kind of sniveling, weedy, whimpering kind of character that he is, trying to be top dog, try and get ahead of the game, try and screw over people and be intellectually superior to them, I thought this is perfect casting for the Riddler. He even kind of looks like what I imagine the Riddler would look like as well. So everything that I was seeing about him cast as the Riddler, I thought that's perfect casting. And then we started getting glimpses of the character. I remember the first trailer came out and he's speaking with that voice changer thing that he's got, like the voice modulator. And he's like, if you want justice, please don't lie. I thought, oh, God, why are they doing a Bane thing? He's doing the Tom Hardy Bane voice. Like, this isn't the Riddler. But then as it went on, and he's wearing like this gimp mask and he's got the glasses outside the mask.
Crazier as it went on. It was quite cool. Because at first it was dark. It was just a bit like, who's this? It was weird. Horror elements, creepy, and then you got crazier and weirder, and you were like, okay, this is very, like, it was what it started to get more and more of. This is what I want from the Riddler, but the mask, not that I can't go over it. It was good. Like I liked it for what it was. It was just like we've said, it wasn't Riddler enough.
Yeah, I he's got sort of like a question mark, like chalked on the front of his Parker jacket, but he's in this big puffy Parker jacket with this gimp mask with glasses on and some like duct tape. This guy loved his duct tape. Like this guy would have had rolls and rolls of duct tape at his apartment. But I can understand it, like for the tone they were going for in this more sort of stripped back street level type thing. Like this guy has literally thrown this costume together from whatever he's got lying around in his house type thing, and I appreciate that. But yes, something just a little bit more comic booky, just a little bit closer to the page. Maybe even just like a brighter green on the jacket would have done it for me. Maybe I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they could have done. But the way he played it, I was getting Kevin Spacey vibes from Seven. Just this really, really terrifying character. And
Did you say that as well before we saw it? I feel this is going to be remind me of Seven.
Like Seven, yeah exactly. And you watched it for the first time. We watched it for the first. Well, you watched it for the first time. It was many times since I watched it, but we watched it on Halloween. Did you get those kind of Seven vibes from it? Sort of like hunting down this serial killer, leaving all these cryptic clues and everything?
Especially with the way he presented himself, without giving it away exactly how he presented himself. But do you know what I mean? The way he sort of, leaving those clues and showing off the way he did. It was very, very similar. It was like, oh, we can see this, but we don't. It was the
delay in the reveal as well. Because he's wearing a mask most of the time, but one of the most chilling shots for me in it. There's a scene, if you've seen the trailer, or even the clip, minor spoiler maybe, there's a funeral happening and this car comes careering through and there's this whole commotion and everything and everyone's fleeing, but there's just this silhouette stood up on the balcony kind of watching it all happen. I thought that's exactly like Seven, that hanging back and then like the full reveal. And when you do get the reveal, he's just really creepy and he's smiling and it just makes you squirm in your seat and it's uncomfortable. Played it fantastically well. And I don't think any scene really is going to rival the interrogation scene from The Dark Knight with Joker and Batman. But there is a scene in this which is kind of similar. It is like, absolutely. It's very reminiscent of that scene, but it's played so well. And there's so many like layers going on. If I was going to offer a criticism, though, this is more, Paul Dano played it fantastically well with what he was given. I do think they neglected a certain aspect of the Riddler character, and we kind of talked about this on the drive home, that the Riddler as a character is a complete narcissist. He considers himself intellectually superior to every single other person. And it's this double-edged sword thing in that Batman is the only person that can match him intellectually, which both frustrates him and intrigues him and makes him want to constantly try and beat Batman, to prove himself number one, essentially. And you don't really have many aspects of that characterization in this. There's more of a personal reason for why Riddler's doing what he's doing, which makes sense for a film, and you could argue is probably a better motivation than just, oh, I want to be more smarter than you, Batman. Stop trying, stop guessing my puzzles correctly. But I don't know. Do you know what I'm trying to get at there? Like they make it more of a personal link between, something with Bruce Wayne and something with Riddler's character.
Yeah,
but they don't really go into that intellectual combat between the two of them.
I feel it was like, I feel the Riddler was kind of, in a way, like when you watched the Joker. It was the Joker, but it wasn't like we know. It was different. I feel like it was that, like it was the Riddler, but it was different. I feel like they did a character, they did this, and then just went, do you know what? We're actually we'll make him the Riddler because he can have riddles, he can do this, he can do this. But the character didn't start from the Riddler. It started from, we want this kind of character. Oh, if we give it, let's do the Riddler because then he can have riddles. It makes the character even better, and suddenly they develop the Riddler.
Yeah.
I feel like it was that rather than we want the Riddler. How are we going to do him?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I genuinely thought it was a good mystery as well. Like, it kept me intrigued. I was trying to work out the riddles very unsuccessfully. Although I think there was one. I think we both got one of them, didn't we? We went like, it's getting towards the end of the film, this like big revelation that I thought was pretty cool. But no, I thought it was genuinely a good mystery. There are elements. I'm going to have to do a second watch of this film, maybe even a third one. On first viewing, there were some bits where I was kind of getting a little bit lost. It does get a little bit convoluted with some of the riddles and, right, we need to go and see this person and this person's a suspect, or actually, no, it isn't that person, it's this person. Oh, no, actually, scratch that. It was this person all along. And it's a little bit back and forth like that with some aspects in the plot, which I'm not going to say is a fault of the film. We were watching it at gone midnight, and it, both of us on very little sleep probably. So I'm going to have to watch this.
Given a free comic.
We did. I'm going to grab it right there. What's this? It's Batman the Long Halloween issue 1 special edition.
I've not read it.
It's right there. There's some very nice artwork on the front. Yeah, so it's obviously the depiction of the characters from that. But I think it is. Yeah, it is. Wow, that is Long Halloween.
But if you look as well, one, that's Robert Pattinson's Batman. And 2, Riddler's green. Like, that one in the film.
So yeah, have they just done that for the front cover? Because I'm pretty sure that Riddler doesn't look like that.
No, yeah, because the front, they're all different designs in there.
Like, is Riddler even in this?
I don't know. I don't know it. It's been out for a while, and I've not ever read it or watched the cartoon. Well,
this is issue 1, so I'm guessing this is going to be the case of, if you come and see the Batman for the second week at Odeon Cinema, you'll get issue 2. I mean, I don't know how many issues. I thought Long Halloween was quite a big comic book.
Well,
so
there was
how many of these are they?
That are like an hour and a half or something. I think. I don't know. I haven't watched it, but I know there's 2 parts to a cartoon.
How many times am I going to have to see the Batman over the course of the next month if I'm going to collect all them? Other characters, I'm just going to do like a really, really quick fire. Andy Serkis's Alfred, I thought was fine, but we don't really get much of him. I was actually surprised at how little we get of Alfred in this one. So there's that aspect. I thought John Turturro, who I completely forgot was in this movie, because he was like one of the first cast in the film, I think. I forgot he was in there. Wasn't really in any of the trailers as far as I could see. John Turturro's Carmine Falcone I thought was excellent.
I thought he should have been chunkier, though.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know why. I see him as fat, might because of the Gotham series, but also I think he was depicted as fat in the comics. I can't remember. I haven't seen him for a while.
We've also got a fat penguin in in Colin Farrell in a lot of makeup.
We've never had a thin penguin, really.
Well, no, you don't want a thin penguin.
Exactly. I was going to say that's not a thing.
You've got Gotham.
But he was a kid penguin, really, when you think about it, wasn't he?
He was thin, though. You said
he was a kid.
You said we've never had a thin penguin.
It doesn't matter. He was a kid. It's different.
But no, I loved Colin Farrell as the Penguin. Like from the trailer, it looks like he's basically playing Robert De Niro.
Didn't have a monocle though.
Didn't have a monocle. Didn't have the cigarette holder. Didn't have the top hat.
But then again, he was Penguin in training, kind of. Do you know what I mean? He was rising up, so you never know.
But this is proper crime boss, mob boss Penguin, which is what I've wanted to see. You know, Iceberg Lounge kind of Penguin. Very, very close to the Arkham games, I would say. Now, he's not a Cockney and he doesn't have a glass bottle jammed in his eye, and he's not
that though.
And he's not voiced by Nolan North. No, I liked that. I thought that was a good.
I thought it was you that said you didn't like it. I know someone said they weren't keen on it.
No, I liked it. I liked that.
I thought it was really good. Yeah.
But that similar kind of vibe to it, that, you know, just dodgy crime lord, you know, fronting this club and everything like that. But he's not a good guy. But Colin Farrell just disappears into this role. You know, if you didn't tell me that this wasn't Colin Farrell, I probably wouldn't have known, because the makeup is that good and the voice that he puts on and the accent and everything's fantastic. He's like this kind of New Yorker, you know, he's like, hey, take it easy, sweetheart, kind of thing. I thought it was brilliant. And then, Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon. I feel like I want to see more of his Gordon, but what I did like about him was that, similar to Batman, you get the impression that he's been doing this for years and he is beat down and he is worn and he has got nothing left to give. And he's really kind of at the end of his rope, kind of Commissioner Gordon, trying to get all these people in line and just get the job done. But there are moments where it almost feels like a buddy cop kind of situation, with Batman and Commissioner Gordon going to places and inspecting crime scenes together. And I love that aspect. I love seeing Commissioner Gordon and Batman work together. Is he as good as Gary Oldman's take on Commissioner Gordon in the Nolan trilogy? No, I don't think so. Not at this moment anyway, but again,
we didn't see enough for him to decide, I don't think.
We're comparing one film to a trilogy, which I know is unfair to do, and, you know, Gordon had a fantastic arc, so maybe Commissioner Gordon will as well.
One thing I would say, though, not that I didn't like their chemistry, but I didn't think they had much. It wasn't really there, whereas he's supposed to respect Gordon. He thinks he's a great cop, and I know he mentions it at the end, but I feel like throughout the movie, he didn't really get it too much. It was kind of there. They had a bit. I wasn't keen on it. I just don't think we got the kind of relationship they should have had, being a year or two in.
Do you think we got much personality from Commissioner Gordon in this, or do you think he was a little bit sort of?
I think we got
stoic.
No, I think we got enough. I think he worked in the world it was in. He worked, and he was very stressed, and just him. And I think he was really, really good. But like you say, we didn't get enough. Like it's basing it on one movie. If you were to base it on just that movie alone, I think he was, you know, I'd give him, you know, 9 out of 10.
Yeah. So I think that does it for the cast. Let's talk visual style real quick.
It was very dark. It looked dark.
It was very dark.
It was.
Yeah, you could like sense the grain on this, like it was shot on film, and it was raining, and it
looked
was
like a funeral.
Yeah, and that's what you want from something Batman related, you know.
Well, not have you? I know you have Logan. He gave you that kind of vibe, which is what you want, because Logan was literally, this is an adult Wolverine. This is that, like it gave me that vibe, which and it reminded me of that the whole way through. Because I remember when I watched Logan and it came out on Blu-ray, and you could watch it the noir black and white version, and I watched that like literally back to back. I watched that, and I went, I just watch it in black and white now. And like there's a scene that where like he's in the car and stuff, and it's raining, it looks really, really good. I got that vibe from the whole movie. It was like that the whole time, which is really good, and that's what you want. So I think it looked brilliant.
Yeah, and you know, going back to the city of Gotham as well, I think that Reeves absolutely nailed it. Like everything that he talked about in that DC fandom video I saw, and like one of the first scenes in this film is an establishing shot of an aspect of Gotham. I think it's like Gotham Times Square, I think they call it. And I just sort of went like, I just like gasped. I was like, this is Gotham. And we got aspects of that, I think, in Zack Snyder's one, but because it wasn't a Batman film and we only got aspects of Gotham, we never really got to see loads of it. But this is that heightened Gothic city that I want to see. And it really is like an amalgamation of aspects of Gotham that we've seen before that just feels complete, but it looks straight up like the Arkham Asylum city that you're flying around or something like that, or Arkham Knight or whatever. You've got sort of like the garish Times Square neon kind of style that maybe is akin to like the Joel Schumacher films. You've got the Gothic architecture, which they actually shot in Liverpool. I don't know if they shot all of it in Liverpool or a big chunk of it. So I'm going to have to take a geeky pilgrimage back up to Liverpool and try and check out some of the architecture. I've been a few times, but I've never paid attention to the architecture.
Wow.
But yeah, like the really sort of like old timey Gothic buildings, you know, that akin to the Tim Burton films, that's in there. And then there's a bit where Bruce Wayne's on a motorbike, sort of like traveling to the other side of the city, which is like the Palisades, and you've got, you know, the high-rise skyscrapers and the wealthy side of the town, and then you've got the sort of like the rusty monorail subway bridges and everything that you would get in like Batman Begins or something like that with the constant rain. It really is all these different aspects, and I just loved it. This was a world that, ironically, I kind of wanted to live in because I love the world of Gotham. I absolutely love Batman, and I just think the aesthetic was nailed so perfectly. Maybe not Riddler's costume, but the rest of the aesthetic of the world itself was brilliant. And I don't know, I want to see more of Gotham next time. I want to see more of Wayne Manor. I want to see Wayne Enterprises and, you know, all of these other places that we haven't seen before. You know, even though it was 3 hours, I'm kind of like, oh, I want to continue. I want the next one now. You know, I want the next one. Should talk music. What do you think to the soundtrack, Michael Giacchino?
I thought it was very animated series.
Yeah,
it was very noir. Like, it was literally like, it was, like I said, Jessica Rabbit, very jazzy kind of, like, there was that going on. It was very, you know, gritty, very dark, very, like, it could have literally come straight out of the animated series.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing, it was really good. It stands out for that, and it was very similar to the Danny Elfman in a way. Like, it was dark. It was very, like, that's kind of what we got, but obviously not the same. And what was it you mentioned about Riddler's theme as well?
Oh, yeah. So this isn't really a spoiler for the film, but there's the opera song, I think it's opera, Ave Maria, recurs quite frequently throughout the film in some aspect. And I want to say that the Riddler theme, after knowing that now in the film, it's a spin on the Ave Maria melody, but it's like in a minor key, or I'm not sure what minor key it's in, but it's this twisted, dark version of Ave Maria, which when you see the film will make a lot more sense. Maybe I'm just reaching there, but after listening to it again, I could definitely hear that. And I think Giacchino even wove that into the melody of Ave Maria in the actual film itself. Giacchino's probably one of my favorite composers, like modern composers working in movies and TV today. I first discovered his work through the TV series Lost, which was a fantastic score through all 6 seasons of that. And now he's just knocking it out of the park. He's done Marvel films, he's done Star Wars films, he's done this, and you know, Pixar films, Disney, and he's just not quitting anytime soon. What I love about his scores as well, and he has worked with Matt Reeves before on the 2 Planet of the Apes films that he worked with him on, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War for the Planet of the Apes. His strengths lie in that he can capture the sound so well of another composer and other styles of other composers, craft it in a way that is unique to him and put his own stamp on it as well. So as you mentioned in this one, you do get aspects of, you know, the animated score, like the Shirley Walker score for the animated series and Mask of the Phantasm is really prominent there. And I think even Matt Reeves mentioned that Mask of the Phantasm is his favorite Batman film and one that he wanted to draw as much inspiration from as possible. You get aspects of that score. There's bits of Zimmer in there as well, as you mentioned, like Danny Elfman. Everything you've heard pretty much, maybe not the 60s one, but it's all in there. And it's such a simple Batman theme as well. It's 2 chords. It's, you know, even you heard it. I think a lot of people have heard it as well. Very similar to the Darth Vader Imperial March.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, it's like dun 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 dun. It's literally that, and it's almost like what you'd have with John Williams with the Jaws score, where it's like you can have so much impact from 2 notes. This is like it's 2 chords, and that's the Batman theme. But there are other beautiful themes in there as well. Like the Riddler's got a really creepy theme, which works for him. Catwoman's got her own one, which, as you mentioned, like jazz, blues influences in there, which, yeah, like the femme fatale, Jessica Rabbit type sound things. And then there's kind of like a Bruce Wayne, like hopeful score as well that kicks in, which I loved. And the soundtrack was always there. It was like proper melodies and just really enhanced the mood, and the leitmotifs, those themes would kick in when that character was on screen, which made, you know, the impact of the music even more so. So I absolutely love the soundtrack. Now that I've seen the film, I do want to listen to the soundtrack on its own, beginning to end. And I mean, I'm probably going to be seeing this movie again anyway, I'm sure, before it's out of cinemas. Okay, I think we've said all that now. So I mean, I'd recommend this movie. Just before we jump into spoilers, I don't know if you want to just give like a really.
What if you'd recommend this movie?
Yeah, I mean,
would you recommend? No, not really. Sorry. No, 100%. It's like I say, it's literally if you like the animated series, it's, you will, you'll like it, you'll enjoy it. But it's a slow burn. It's one of those. If you're going in thinking, oh, we're going action, it's not a superhero movie, really. Like when you think about it, I didn't really see it as a superhero movie. I like a lot of the time I thought, like I don't want to, not in a bad way, but a lot of the time I saw it as if it wasn't Batman, it was someone else, it'd still work.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's not a superhero movie. It's like if you're a lover of superheroes, you go, oh, I love it. It's a superhero movie. It's not that kind of movie. It's a different movie, and if you like Batman, you will like it.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. We'll do final thoughts after we've done the spoiler section. But that's if you haven't seen the film, there you go. That's our spoiler-free review on it right there. Take it for what it's worth. Go see the film. Come back to it because we are going to get into spoilers now. Now, there's not a masses to talk about, and I do want people. Pink hair.
Yeah, that was the best.
You like the pink hair?
Yes.
Pink hair looked good.
Literally, it was the amazing when Zoe Kravitz. Yeah, basically, yeah. When Catwoman was obviously undercover and
heart-shaped eyes, wasn't it?
Yeah, she was undercover. She was wearing, stockings. No, not just that. But anyway, like she was undercover, obviously, and like the chemistry was so good because it was literally, like.
It's a good job. This is waist height, isn't it? This camera.
Yeah. Like, but those general like kind of like detective movies or crime things, like when like someone's in the surveillance van, like tell me what you can see, someone's wearing a wire. It was so like that. It was so good. They were like my favorite scenes. So when she was first in the iceberg lounge and stuff, and that was probably my favorite scene of the whole thing. The first, not just because she had pink hair, not just because she was ridiculously hot, but because it was just the chemistry was so good. It was so like literally you were there thinking, I hope she doesn't get caught.
Yeah.
And it was like, and then she was being Catwoman. She was ballsy. She was there, and she was like, well, I'll do my own thing. And it was like, I really want to, it was just the whole thing between them. And then obviously, Batman getting pissed off when she was doing certain things and all that kind of stuff. It worked so well. That was probably my favorite scene I've seen in the movie for a long time. Yeah. Like ever.
No, that was a great scene. And I love those like contact lenses things that he was wearing as well, which allowed him to sort of, get identifications on people. We've seen aspects of Batman's gadgets before, whether he's got some kind of goggles on, like heat, thermal scanning or whatever, even the white eyes, like the sonar thing from The Dark Knight. But this was very different with the contact lenses, and I really enjoyed that. And that was a really tense scene. I like how you mentioned at the end of it, Catwoman ultimately is helping out, but when push comes to shove, she is out for it for her own means and her own motives.
Which is Catwoman all over.
Absolutely.
It's what she does, and it was great.
So I love that dynamic, and they continue that dynamic all the way through. Selena Kyle had a great character arc as well. There are some things that they do. I don't know if this is from the comic books because there are so many different iterations, but they mess around with some of like the family sort of ancestry, like as well, like and parentage as well. Like Catwoman's father in this, for example, is Carmine Falcone. And when I first saw that, I was like, oh, are they going to do something where she's now called like Selena Falcone now or something like that? But they don't. That there is a story there, but it works for this story that they were telling. This sins of the father is like a big theme in this, and sort of like being accountable for past actions. And that also kind of translates into Selena Kyle's character as well. They both have these tortured upbringings in some way, and they're both trying to seek some kind of vengeance and escape from it, and catharsis from it. Bruce is trying to repair the city to continue his parents' legacy, and she wants recompense for the death of her mother, essentially at the hands of Carmine Falcone and her friend as well, Annika, yeah. So no, I thought her character arc was fantastic in there as well. It was a really good tense scene.
And she had cats.
And she had a lot of cats.
Which is exactly what he says.
I think that's probably one of the only jokes in the film, wasn't it? Really, there was a couple of people.
I was disappointed. He said, "You've got a lot of cats," and I really wanted him to say, "I don't like cats." I was there, and I was like, "That's disappointing." You could have just said, "I don't like cats." But I don't know. I was disappointed about that.
There was like another sort of like kind of campy line where he's like, "Don't throw your life away, Selena," and she's like, "Don't worry, I've got 8 more of them," or something like that. And you're like, it's funny because it's a cat.
The thing is, it was a very serious movie. There wasn't loads of funny moments, but there was enough that there was like 2 or 3, and you were like, that's cool.
Yeah. I don't know if too many would have taken away.
It would have. It would have 100%. It's just, it was nice to see 1 or 2 because it was like, ha. And then seriously, it was cool. Like, I liked it.
Some other favorite scenes. Okay, one thing that some people might be happy about with this is that we don't get a flashback of the Waynes getting gunned down.
Yeah,
we don't get a flashback for it. What we do get instead, and I'm a firm believer, every time you reboot something, you can tell the origin story again. I don't have a problem with that. I think a flashback to that would have felt out of place in this film because it is so present in the moment. But you get that sense of loss, and you get the emotions of that, like what that flashback would infer from that simple bit when he gets back to the Batcave. And I love that, by the way. I mean, it's not like a proper cave, I will say that. It's kind of like a warehouse garage, but you do have all the bats flying around, and that was so comic book.
When you say cheesy line, someone said, "What have you been living in the cave?" Someone said that to him, and I was like, "Yeah." But no, it's like, the thing is, I liked not seeing that because I don't need to see it again. I've seen it 1,000 times. His parents getting gunned down. I've seen it so many times. But I like Batman. If you come into it new, you do need a little bit of background. That is, look, it's not criticism because it's not. It doesn't make it a bad movie. It's just criticism for if you're a new Batman fan, it's just kind of like you might want some background on Batman. That's literally, and you don't get that. You get it as the movie goes on a little bit, but like I say, slow burn. I do think if you're not a Batman fan, it will be hard to get into.
Yeah. And like the bit where the TV comes on and it's talking about it's like the anniversary of the Wayne's death or something, and there's like old footage on there, and he's just staring at it. And again, all from his performance, you get that sense of loss and that sadness and that weight that he's carrying with him. There's nice elements as well where there is an orphaned character in the film that that he rescued. There's like glances there, and it's I understand completely what you're going through, and that that empathy that he has for that character. Wonderful stuff. I've mentioned the go on, sorry.
I was going to say one thing we just I don't know if it was jumping the boat, but like one thing we didn't mention when we talked about characterizations, like people casting and all that kind of stuff. The Riddler, we talked about how he was played, but Edward Nygma played the best. Yep. He played him better than kind of like how if someone's playing Batman, you've got Batman and Bruce Wayne to play. You've got the Riddler and Edward Nygma. I think he portrayed Edward Nygma so well. So well. So when he got towards the end with his laugh and everything, the way his face looked, just the way he just looked creepy, like his smile, that's when you see someone's really messed up, and like it just played that perfectly. I think it was really, really good.
Oh, Riddler's like absolutely messed up in the head in this film, which is wonderful. And I love heroes and villains that are so similar. Like they ultimately want the same goal, but the way they go about it is completely different. And that's why, or even just polar opposites, like they're so similar, but there's just like a fraction of like moral diligence that just keeps them on the straight and narrow. That's where they diverge. That's why the Joker and Batman work so well with each other. But the Riddler ultimately wants to clean up the city. He wants people to be accountable for their past crimes and everything. He wants people to see he really is a man for the people in a way. So I do genuinely believe what Edward Nygma thinks. I'm saying Edward Nygma, Edward Nashton. I'm going to call him Edward Nygma.
Yeah.
What the Riddler's doing, he genuinely believes is for a purpose, is for a reason, and that it will make Gotham a better place. And it's the only way to it's like a purge. He's going to wash away, literally by the end of the film, he's going to wash away all of this filth and corruption, and he's going to start afresh, essentially, which is a very noble cause. He is also like a costumed vigilante character as well, but the way he goes about these things is not cool.
It's like
that's where he crosses the line.
When he gets caught and he has that message of, oh, by the time you do listen to this, I'll be already caught, I'll be in their hands, blah blah blah. It reminded me of like Criminal Minds, where it's like they plan to be caught because there was a killer in Criminal Minds that he planned to be caught. He planned his escape. He planned exactly how it's all going to happen. The Riddler basically did that, planned everything out. He knew exactly what was going to happen, which showed how clever he was.
Oh, it's like the Joker in Dark Knight as well, isn't it? And like that film, there are leaps in logic. It's like, well, I know that the Riddler's meant to be a very intelligent character, but realistically, how much of this could he plan in advance that Batman would just happen to find him there? When he said, like, oh, bring Carmine Falcone into the light. What are the odds that it has to be that light out of that building at that time where he can be stood by with a sniper rifle? Into the light could be anywhere. He could have found Carmine Falcone, So there are some leaps in logic where I'm like, but you get that in a lot of films. You get that in Skyfall with Javier Bardem's character. You get it with the Joker in The Dark Knight, and that is kind of that more comic booky elements coming in, I would say, certainly when the bombs start going off as well. I love the interrogation scene, as we mentioned, played fantastically well there. Let's talk about the tease then, the villain tease for the next film, because that was so I think this was actually rumored, to be honest. I'm just going to bring up the actor's name here. Barry Keoghan, I think, is it Barry Keoghan? He was in Dunkirk. He was in Eternals as well. He's actually credited as unseen Arkham prisoner, but it's the Joker.
It is. It has to be. If it's not, then I have nothing to say about it. If it's not, because it is the way he laughs, everything, and the only thing I wasn't keen on the way he looked. I was not. Like, I know we didn't see much of him, but I felt like I saw his face very clearly, and I didn't like that. That's the one thing. But you say you didn't see it as clearly as I saw it, so maybe I'm imagining it. Maybe like what I saw, like I'll look at it again, and it's not what I thought.
Well, it's almost like he's behind. Sort of, it's almost like frosted glass, but like with a mesh over it as well. He does look really disfigured. I will say that, kind of very short, kind of spiky and messed up hair. Looks like he's got a receding hairline, but his face did look really blotchy and messed up, and his nose is kind of disfigured, and he's got sort of like this big, messed up, kind of mangled mouth. So is this the Joker that has fell into a vat of chemicals at Ace Chemicals? Are they going to do the whole Killing Joke origin story with his wife and everything like that? I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with it. But do you think they needed a joke? I know this is going to be the first part of a trilogy. Do you think they needed a Joker tease at the end of the film, or did you think that was a little bit crowbarred in? Would it have worked to just introduce the Joker in the next film? They didn't need it.
As much as the Joker is literally my favorite fictional character ever created, which says a lot about me.
You have him inked on your body.
I do, yeah. I have a Joker.
There he is. There he is.
Yeah, with a maple leaf behind. So the Joker's Canadian. But like, is as much as, like, as I say, he's my favorite fictional character like ever. So any Joker is good to me. I don't think we need it at the end. I don't, because like I say, I think it was a nice sort of, if there's nothing else after it, that's cool. But at the same time, it's, I guess that tease also, let's say there is nothing else after, and let's say that was it. It was just a cool, like, could be the Joker. Who knows? That's it. We never know. Like, do you know what I mean? It's kind of cool, but I don't think I could have done without that.
Yeah, I will say, like, immediate response, and I know that we can't really gauge anything off the Joker at this point because he only has like a cameo scene at the end. I'm not keen on the laugh. I will say that, and I mean, I haven't really seen the appearance. It does look traumatizing. He does look really mangled and messed up.
I think the reason they did it, it was one of those things of, we got to have the Joker.
Yeah,
I think that's why it was done. Do you know what I mean? If they didn't have it, I don't think there wouldn't have been complaints if they didn't have it. But he just thought, you know what, make it better. The Joker, like, it was one of them.
See, I'm curious now whether the Joker will actually be the villain in the next film, like The Dark Knight. You know, the second part is where you have the Joker, or if he's going to be teased again in the second one.
Penguin. I think Penguin will be the main one. Joker will be kind of playing a role like Penguin did in this one.
Yeah,
I think it'll be kind of like that, but a bit bigger than Penguin did. It kind of like put Penguin and Falcone together. That's the biggest role that Joker will play, but mainly it'll be Penguin. He's the one that's taken down at the end, and Joker takes over the third movie. That's what I think it'll be done. But who knows?
I think they should save Joker till the last movie because he is your biggest villain, you know, and seeing those
thing is, though, because he's your biggest villain, that's why I think he'll be partly played in the next one, taking on Penguin's sort of sub role. He'll be there because then he lasts 2 movies. He'll take on a bit of a bigger role, and then he does become the biggest villain. Yeah. And they still see him that way because he's taken on his, like, well, he's actually in 2 movies rather than just 1. I know Penguin will too, but do you know what I mean? Because they don't make him a bigger role. I think that's the way they'll do it, but could be wrong.
No,
just optimistic of just Joker. I like Joker.
But you know, it's the evolution of adaptation. You know, we'll have another new Joker with another up against another live action Batman, so that's interesting. And you know, we have Arkham Asylum now as well. We have a place to keep these villains and bring them back if we need to have a cameo with them again. So that's intriguing as well. I was going to make a comparison to something else, but with the Joker, I forgot what I was going to say now. Oh, the whole being unnecessary as a scene. I do kind of agree with that, and it felt like that was more to appease. That felt like a studio note. If anything was from the studio, that felt like, put the Joker in there. because the Joker's popular, and that film made a lot of money and won a lot of Oscars. And similar to the Joker, because we love that film, but the bit where the Waynes get gunned down at the end, that felt like studio shit. It was like, we're doing this again. I don't need to see the Waynes getting murdered in a film about the Joker. I get that it has a point, and when he says I'm thinking of a joke, the joke is that this kid's parents get gunned down in an alleyway.
Thing is, though, with those kind of bits, we'll always have a different opinion of people that aren't as big of a fan because we've seen it so many times. We go, I don't need that. But then we have those casual fans that they are going to be grateful for it.
Yeah.
That is the thing about those. So it's kind of when I see these kind of movies, I always think that's going to happen. Though we know that's going to happen, and do you know what I mean? It becomes predictable.
And there are some pretty fun references in there, which if you know your Batman comics or your Batman terminology and things like that, you will pick up on some stuff. There was like a thing that the Riddler had like struck. Yeah, he'd written Hush on something. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool.
And he looked like Hush.
Bloodhaven was mentioned. A bunch of stuff like that.
I don't know if this was intended, but the way they had the bat in it reminded me of Man-Bat. The way I think the way they posed it looked exactly like the way Man-Bat would pose, and I don't know if that was intended because of that or whether it was just me overthinking it. But I was like, looks like it kind of like, it's just another cool thing. Like, do you know what I mean? I feel like, yeah.
And I guess just sort of where we can end it, like how it ends, it's not really Batman going up against a big bad. The Riddler's apprehended, but as he said, he fundamentally says in the film that he's not strength, he's not brawn. He wanted to work with Batman. Batman was going to be the touch of targeted violence.
And remember, like I said, it's not a superhero movie. Like I don't think they need him to go out fighting. It was just, he saves people. That's what he does, and that's what it was.
Because Batman at the end of this basically is just fighting a couple of goons, like 5 or 6 goons with shotguns. That's it. That's like your ending, and it works for a final act. But
and it was, what did he? I can't remember the exact line he said, but it goes more towards me saying that it seems he was kind of lost. He didn't know what he was doing, and there was loads of kind of things. He didn't know how to be Batman, really. He was still new to it. It's been a year, 2 years, but he's still new to it. I mean, if I was being Batman for 2 years, I'd still be getting into the swing of it. You know what I mean? It'd take me a while. But it felt like that. And what he kind of said towards the end, it was kind of like, maybe I need to do more of this, and he was still finding himself. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And that sets us up very nicely for sort of like going into the next one, because Batman has such a great character arc in this, in that, he does start off as that vengeful Batman. And by the end of it, he realizes that he needs to be better. He needs to do more. He needs to be that symbol of hope and inspire the people. And we see him saving people fundamentally. And I think this was the character arc they were trying to get Ben Affleck's Batman on from the course of Batman versus Superman. The ending of that film into Justice League. He was a very vengeful, at the end of his rope, murderous Batman. And that was the problem with that film. He was just couldn't give a shit. Like, he will straight up murder people. And the death of Superman at the end of BVS was meant to be this, right now I need to try and be what Superman was. He was a beacon of hope, kind of.
Well, he wasn't. It was too dark.
Well, exactly, because they handled it terribly. But
and actually, that's a good point. What happened at that beginning of Superman? He was like, I didn't kill those people, so he wasn't a beacon of hope, was he? Anyway.
I mean, in Zack Snyder's head, this all makes sense. Like, this is what he was trying to get across. And like, Superman's death, that is the catalyst that's going to inspire Batman to be better, to do better, and to save people. And then that's when you get the Justice League.
Kind of almost a bit of a stretch, but that's kind of like saying, Ted Bundy's dead. I think I should do better in life. It's a little bit. Like, I know it's a bit of a stretch, but come on.
I mean, this is from the glorious mind of Zack Snyder, right? So take it for what it's worth, and Chris Terrio, screenwriter. But it's similar in this, but this Batman doesn't kill people. He is violent. He is hard-edged. He will like make a criminal drink through a straw through it for the rest of their life, but he won't kill them. And I love that moral compass that he still has all the way through, and that he's made that oath to his parents that he's never going to quit being Batman. He's not going to just like quit it one day and sit at a cafe in Italy and drink coffee with Selena Kyle. That's not going to happen in this universe. It can't happen in this universe. What's the last
scene of the third one?
I'm going to look back on this video in years' time and be like, God damn it.
A year's time? Fucking hell, you're like optimistic,
in years' time, not in a year's time. But yeah, where this ends, it's Batman saying, like, I am going to do better. I need to be more. And that's the Batman that I hope we get in the next one. And I think this will kind of run in real time as well. We've had this Batman's 2 years in. It might be another 3 years before we get another Batman film in this series, like at least maybe. So then, he's going to be 5 years into his tenure, or 6 years, or whatever, and then by the last film, he might even be 10 years into it. So this is a Batman that,
walking.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to see a Batman saga. Let's not just stop at a trilogy. Let's get 6 films out of this thing. But I don't think Robert Pattinson will want to stick with the role for that long. I think he'll be like Christian Bale, do a trilogy.
Batman series, like they did Gotham, but Batman series, like a live action, hour episodes.
Well,
bit of a Criminal Mindsy kind of the hour-long episodes, do about 6 or so.
That'd be cool with Batman, but I'm glad you mentioned that, actually, because I completely forgot to talk about that. Before this film was even coming out, they've greenlit, as far as I know, a Gotham TV show directed by Matt Reeves, or I think he's going to be like producer on it or something like that.
And it's Gotham was cool, but for the first season, I stopped watching it.
And it's all going to be about the GCPD and everything like that.
That is literally Gotham. What has been done?
Well, I know, but they're going to do it again. But it's going to tie into this Matt Reeves's cinematic world, I guess. So I don't know how I feel about that. I quite like the films to keep contained, but hey, if the show's good, I'll check it out definitely, because I love this depiction of Gotham and I want to see more of it. If I'm going to say anything else, even the Batmobile feels kind of stripped down in this. It's kind of just
a car.
It's a muscle car with like.
It was better than the one I saw earlier.
Which one was that?
Dickhead that drove in front of me with a giant Batman sticker on the front and the back. But I was like, you know what? It's fine, you're Batman. It's cool. It's a Batmobile. It's cool. But yeah, it's better than that one. But it was very it was the thing is, it was quite sports car, like like a 70s sports car, like Homer Simpson has, like the green, but obviously it wasn't green. But it was that style, that shape, that like it was. That's it. I was a bit surprised in the sense, like as I say, I didn't look at all this kind of stuff. I was quite surprised. Of just okay, it's not as. Because I think the first shot you get of it is the engine, isn't it? And it looks really souped up. And I was like, cool. And then you see the rest of it. I'm like, okay, I thought there was going to be more, but it was cool.
It's literally like he's taken, like, as you mentioned, like a 70s muscle car, gutted it and slapped like a jet engine in the back of it and just made it work. Painted it black, yeah. I was going to say something there as well. Completely forgotten it now about the Batmobile. No, it's gone. The Bat bike. That is straight out of the comic book. Like the original design for the Bat bike, where it's just a bike with like this pointy-eared thing stuck on the front of it. Love that. You get that at the very, very end of the film. It's not the Bat pod. It's not that low-down militaristic one, which is probably, I'd say, cooler out of the two. But you can just see that love that Matt Reeves has for like those earlier issues of Detective Comics with Batman and everything like that. Final thoughts then. So final thoughts on this film. I'm not going to rank it in terms of alongside all the other Batman films at the moment, because I am fresh out of the film. I'm still trying to process things. I am probably going to have to give this film another couple more viewings before I can totally cement it in terms of where I'd rank it. But my initial opinions were, I really enjoyed it. This, in a lot of ways, is what I've been wanting for in a Batman film for a long, long time. I just like the fact that Matt Reeves got to make the film he wanted to make, and I really hope that that's the case for the next two as well, if and when he makes them, that there's not much studio interference and he just gets to make the films that he wants to make. I'm interested to see where the story goes. I want to see more of these characters. I want to see these characters develop, and it just, there are so many aspects of this, whether it was certain bits of like Batman fighting, just the look of the city, Batman being Batman and just saving people and being fucking awesome. And it's like, this is why Batman's my favorite fictional character of all time. And this film nailed it in that respect. So it is a slow burn. I don't think it's going to be a film for everyone. If you like your
it would be very divided, I think.
Yeah, I think if you like your superhero action films, your Marvels and even some of your DC ones as well, like your Aquamans and probably what your Flash is going to be and all that kind of stuff, or your Wonder Woman films, this is a very, very different film. I'd even be interested to know if people who are into the Nolan films like Dark Knight would enjoy this one. I think it's probably more in the same ballpark as that, but even then I would say that Batman Begins and Dark Knight is probably more of a blockbuster film even compared to this one as well. But I loved it. It was a solidly told detective story with Batman in it. And it looks like Matt Reeves has understood the character. I just don't know where I'd qualify it yet. And that's not me saying I was let down by any aspects of it. I need to see this more, and I need more time to process everything that I've seen.
It was good.
Okay, well, that was the stream, everyone.
It was. It's one of them at the moment. I'm still like, there's bits I go, I don't actually know what I made of that. Like, there's just certain bits I go, I have to really think about that. Like, I'm just not that, it's not that I'm not sure if I'm okay with that. Aside from I know I'm not okay with him calling Edward National, but just little bits that I'm just like, I don't know what I actually made of that. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like, there's a lot to process because a lot went on, a lot happened, but overall, I'd say for now I'm giving it 8 out of 10.
That's I think 8 out of 10. I think I'd be sitting around there like 8.5 maybe.
Yeah, that's definitely the thing. I'm thinking a little bit, but there's little bits, as I say, in process. I'm going to keep it 8 or push up a little bit.
Now you watch, some people come on here now, DC fanboys, and go, you didn't give this 11 out of 10. You must,
because 11's higher.
This one goes up to 11. It's like you must
saying that earlier. Sorry to go. I said I was 15 out of 10 excited, so I can't really talk on it.
It's like 8 point. Like, you gave it 8, I gave it 8.5. That's still a really good fucking score. That could go up. If I see it another time, it could go down. If I see it a few more times, who knows? But no, I had a really good time with this one, and it was just nice to be genuinely hyped for a film, which it's been a long time since I've been that hyped for a film that I was for this one. And it delivered. It delivered, in my opinion. So that'll do it for our review on The Batman. As I say, this is a very new channel. So new, in fact, that I forgot to click unmute when we first started this stream. So hopefully you're still with us. And so obviously just starting out, but yeah, subscribe for more. So we're going to have movie reviews as and when, trailer reactions as and when, film discussions, TV discussions maybe as well, and live streams, all kinds of stuff. Yep, going right there. I don't have social media links at the moment. As I say, I'm just kind of doing this for a bit of an outlet at the moment. It's just nice to talk about films, and especially when it's Batman. What are you doing?
Pushing it along. And I was going the wrong way because I couldn't see.
My glamorous assistant over here, quite demonstrating along the bottom.
I don't know. It's mirrored, so I'm doing it the wrong way. But anyway, yeah.
I've been doing that for ages. I still don't know which way is which. Weird. Anyway, we hope you enjoy the review. Go and see Batman. As I say, it's out in cinemas now. Watching it on the big screen is absolutely the way to do it. And yeah, if you enjoyed us prattle on about Batman, and you want to see, well, I don't know if you'll be on the next one. If there's another Batman thing that comes out, then I'll be bringing you back on for it, my friend. But yeah, if you want to hear us talk more about movies and stuff like that, support the channel, like the video, subscribe, all of that good stuff. It is very late. It is 5:22 in the AM, and I'm very tired and I want sleep. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.